So we remember the Keystone Pipeline that everybody was all in a ruckus about several years ago. Then Trump approved it, then Biden disapproved it, then Trump's going back. It's been a whole thing for a very long time. And the protests there have been, well, let's just say less than peaceful, right? Everybody is for peaceful protest, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. You should have the right to speak your mind on an issue that you feel passionately about. However, there is a line. You can't start damaging property. You can't start ruining people's reputations. Defamation is a thing. There's a whole bunch of limits to where protests go. And Greenpeace broke a bunch of those limits, according to a jury. A jury has said that Greenpeace, who arguably, or at least, you know what? No, they did, because this is in this court hearing, that organized these protests, is ordered to pay $660 million because they were found liable for defamation, trespass, nuanced civil conspiracy, and other claims, according to a jury. And now it's funny because Greenpeace is now saying, "Oh, hold on, well, we didn't actually, we weren't super involved. We didn't really do any of that sort of stuff. That's crazy." Harrison, is it cool? Do we feel good about the retribution of people again breaking the law, right? That's where this all hinges on. You can't do that. Now actually getting forced to have to pay penalties and face consequences for their actions.
So this is actually little known fact about me. I grew up in the DC area. I actually canvassed for Greenpeace for a summer, and so I would stop people on the street and give them a whole spiel about like air and whales and stuff like that. And so this is all sort of like really, this is like one of the greatest mess around and find out events that we've ever seen by the left. And it actually was so funny to me. I know you're a stand-up comedian, so I wrote a couple jokes for you. This one I don't know, because like if your all's audience is much younger. So this is the most expensive tree hugging episode since the Ewoks torched the second Death Star in Return to Endor. So that's like you got to be kind of a nerd to know that one, but that's a good one to use for the old people. Tree hugging costs a lot more than just hugging your therapist. One more I thought was kind of good. I've been watching a lot of entertainment TV. Chaining yourself to the pipeline costs more than hiring Johnny Depp for a pirate sequel.
Holy.
And I think was like $200 million. Like they could have bought several professional sports teams, I think, for like $600 million. Like
there you go. Yeah.
They could have bought all of Major League Soccer, I think, for that amount of money and probably made a bigger impact.
Well, they could have bought Major League Soccer and made them wear Greenpeace shirts, stop the pipeline. In other words, big waste of money here. The jokes are appreciated. Thanks. I might consider them. I probably won't.
Yeah, you watch
in the next stand-up routine. Savannah, so as somebody who covers protests like this, I think you can agree, like, you know, people have the right to speak their mind. It's when it comes to, you know, violence and damage and destruction, and in this case, defamation, you know, you can't do that. Can you kind of like speak to the overall kind of the thought process behind modern day protesting? Because this hasn't happened all that often where people who are breaking the law actually get held accountable.
Sure. Well, I will say that this verdict is great, and it sets an actually great precedent, because these protesters for the last decade have loved being able to say, "Oh, my First Amendment, my First Amendment." And it's like, yeah, but you can't Molotov cocktail somebody's business because you feel like it. You can't go rob a Louis Vuitton and then scream First Amendment rights. You can't go and disrupt an entire construction site in which they're trying to create this pipeline and then cry and scream victim when that's deemed a criminal act. You can't go and do these things. So I'm glad that we're finally differentiating protest from violent protest from First Amendment rights. I think that this is a very strong precedent. And, you know, we're living through the craziest times right now, Jobob, and also the greatest, the craziest and the greatest at the same time, right? So the DOJ just today actually charged 3 Tesla
Mhm.
vandals because they have been firebombing, shooting, like straight up shooting Tesla dealerships. So I mean, this kind of is reminiscent of like these Greenpeace protests, right? Like these crazy tactics being used under the guise of the First Amendment. No, I'm glad the differentiation has been made, and hopefully we see more $600 million+ lawsuits being directed toward these, quite frankly, domestic terrorists. I'm going to be honest.
Ooh, there we
Oh,
go.
whoa.
Speaking of
What happened to the good protesters that just like were proud of what they're doing? Now they get caught and they act like they're not like, why are you arresting me?
there actually
They
is a
don't
good point
understand.
being made there. You know, used to when you protest, right? There has to be some sort of risk, or else it doesn't mean anything. If you're not like
Yeah.
facing the risk of like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
You're supposed to go to jail. Like these kids are like crying when they're getting like handcuffed. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
that's what you're doing. Like, this is the cool guy part. Like, don't you want to be a cool guy? Or you just
yeah,
wanted to like
it is interesting that
post
dynamic
on
shift.
social media?